Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So today we are together again, Tony and I thought we would read a nice chapter from Bhagavad Gita, talk a little bit about that. And before I do that, I'd like to say the prayers to our beloved spiritual masters. Agyanatimirandasya Gananjana Shilakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, who, with the torchlight of knowledge, has opened my eyes, which were darkened by the blindness of ignorance. So reading from this lovely edition of Bhagavad Gita, translation by Vijayacharya, and reading the 6th chapter today, entitled Divine Communion Through Prayer and Contemplation. The all-knowing Lord continued, those who serve out of a sense of sacred obligation and not out of a desire for payment are genuine renunciates, sincere seekers of truth. However, this cannot be said of those who culture complete inaction and will undergo no sacrifice for my sake. No one can come to know full communion with me without first turning away from mental cravings. Genuine renunciation is a fundamental characteristic of pure devotional service. For those who are novices on the way towards communion with me, active engagement in the purifying practice of divine service is said to be the means for attaining perfection. Those perfect servants who have already attained deep communion with me are seen to be ever tranquil and blessed. A person may be said to be in full communion with me when the tendency to respond slavishly to mental stimuli has been overcome, when self-motivated action has been given up and sensory demands transcended. One must consciously arrange for one's deliverance and not unconsciously fall into degradation. The mind may either act as our great ally or our deadly enemy. For those who have achieved self-mastery, the mind is like a pleasant friend, but those who fail to do so appear to be living with a treacherous enemy. Indeed, they become enemies to their very selves. The fully realized souls, having attained the summit of self-mastery, live in deep communion with the Supreme Person, caring not for heat and cold, happiness and misery, prestige or disrepute. Self-satisfied with the attainment of the divine wisdom which comes through self-mastery, absorbed in the sublime and precious truth, the saints see gold to be no different from stone. Those who are far advanced naturally show love to both saints and sinners, wish well to both friends and foes, and seek to act as peacemakers amongst the belligerents. Those who seek such perfection should retire to a secluded place for prayer and become absorbed in continuous devotion, carefully guarding the consciousness to keep it free from false attractions and exploitative tendencies. Having found an appropriate sitting place in some pure and holy land, they should sit comfortably after first laying down a grass mat and a cloth, and then with single appointed attention they should balance the mind, absorb the consciousness, and in this way purify the heart. Keeping their bodies straight with heads erect, they should remain still and free the eyes from distraction. With peaceful and happy minds, undisturbed by fears, firmly continent and resolved, they should absorb full consciousness in me, making me the ultimate goal of life. The saints who constantly practice in this way quickly make friendship with their minds, come to taste the peace which lies beyond all suffering, and finally come to live with me. Communing with me can best be maintained by those who neither eat nor fast to excess, sleep to excess, or too often keep a night vigil. The middle way should be followed in matters of diet, exercise, works, and rest, as such practice will help one to overcome all suffering. Those souls who have learned to discipline consciousness and remain fixed in transcendence, beyond the force of sense desire, may be said to be true adepts. Just as a flame, sheltered from the breeze, burns bright and steady, so shines the consciousness of the saints absorbed in full communion with me. Arriving at the plane of pure consciousness, wherein the practice of divine service has brought about self-restraint, they gain a position to relish the complete satisfaction which comes from seeing the true self. Solidly reposed in the supreme truth, their connection with the universe comes through transcendental senses through which they taste infinite pleasure and a holy joy. Upon reaching such a platform, the self-realized souls conclude that there remain no more goals worthy of achievement. Being so deeply absorbed in divine communion, they know no agitation, even in the face of severe difficulties. Such steady absorption in divine service should be understood as the only remedy for the miseries which arise from mundane connection. Divine service should be practiced with confidence and in a clear consciousness of communion with me, completely transcending the force of the sense desires generated by mental stimuli. One should use the mind as a regulator over the sensory movements. Progress should be gradual, stage by stage, and full conviction must be achieved by reasoned intelligence. At last the mind will always graze in the pasturing grounds of the eternal homeland, the realm of supreme truth and beauty, and will never wander elsewhere. Wherever the mind wanders through impetuosity and intemperate habit, it must certainly be brought back and placed under the shelter of the divine herdsman. By absorbing their minds in full consciousness of me, my divine servants experience transcendental pleasure of the highest order. With passions calmed, they achieve freedom from blame and come to perceive the Supreme Divine Person face to face. By continuous engagement on the sacred path of service, the self-realized souls are completely cleansed of all worldly pollution, and coming to know the Supreme Truth personally, they relish the highest ambrosia of divine life. Souls in full communion with me see me seated in the hearts of all, and realize that all souls also dwell in my heart. True saints cannot help but see me everywhere. Those who perceive my presence in all places and see all things in relationship to me are never deprived of my shelter, nor ever forgotten by me. My divine servants see in truth that I am the one who dwells within the hearts of all, and thus they remain fully devoted to me in all circumstances. True saints love all souls as if they were their very selves and understand their joys and sorrows. Arjuna then responded, O destroyer of the demons of doubt, the path towards divine communion which you have pointed out appears to be beyond the power of my restless and flickering mind to follow, for the mind is indisputably unstable, easily agitated, powerful and obdurate. My dear Krishna, I think it would be easier to calm a gale than to tame it. The blessed Lord thereupon replied, There is no doubt, my Madhyam Kunteya, that it is very hard to bring tranquility to the stormy mind, but success will come in the end by continuous practice and total dedication. Failure to tame the mind will place communion with me out of reach, but it is my conviction that those who learn to properly supervise the mind's activities by adopting appropriate spiritual techniques are certain to achieve success. Then Arjuna asked, what becomes of a faithful soul who, after taking up the divine way, allows the mind to be deviated and thus fails to achieve the perfection of divine communion? Does not such a person lose everything like a cloud when it bursts, having no more a place in this world, and yet unable to follow the road laid down by the Supreme Person? Such souls have turned their backs on material success, but have no hope for liberation. This is my uncertainty, and I beg you to do away with it entirely. I shall find no one apart from you, my dear Krishna, who has the power to resolve this doubt, because you alone are all-knowing. The all-attractive Lord then said, My dear child of Pritha, those who take up the path of auspicious action shall never come to an evil destination, either in this world or in the hereafter. Goodness can only beget goodness. Deviated from the purely spiritual path, the immature aspirants will enter the subtle planes of celestial enjoyment, which are populated by devout souls who have performed volumes of pious deeds. After many years there, they will take birth again in happy families of holy and aristocratic parents. Alternatively, they may be fortunate enough to take birth in a family of my devoted servants, who are always enthused by love for me. A birth such as this is a rare and precious opportunity. Having gained such a favorable birth, their consciousness of divine service is reawoken, and taking up from where they left off, they strive again to reach the perfection of love, a valiant son of the Kurus. By dint of prenatal experience, they are drawn intuitively to inquire about the way of divine communion and rise quickly above the detailed injunctions of the scriptures. Those who endeavor sincerely attain a consciousness purified of all pollution, and because of the efforts of their many previous births, they are able to quickly achieve the highest goal of life. Those who seek communion with me are of higher order than the ascetics, the scholars, and the selfish workers. You must therefore always strive for such communion, my beloved Arjuna. It is my conviction that of all those who seek me, those ever faithful souls who always live in love with me, continuously seeing me in the core of their hearts and always worshipping me by engagement in selfless divine service, attain to the deepest levels of communion with me and are the best amongst all souls. So, the bhakti path is the path of devotion, and we in this material world have had no devotion for Krishna for so many lifetimes, countless lifetimes. But the amazing thing is that, firstly, that Lord Gauranga has appeared in this Kali Yuga, because Kali Yuga is the worst time, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the Iron Age. The most hardened criminals are taking birth in this age. Those who have absolutely no devotion to Krishna, very offensive, they appear in this age, Kali Yuga. And yet, Lord Gauranga has appeared in this Kali Yuga. He doesn't come in every Kali Yuga. So, on the one hand, we are very unfortunate because we are born in Kali Yuga. But on the other hand, we are very fortunate because in this Kali Yuga, Gauranga has appeared. Yeah. So, that's why why is it so important that Gauranga has appeared? Because Gauranga is Krishna himself. He's called the hidden avatar. Although he appeared just over 500 years ago, he kept himself concealed. In some rare cases, he revealed his identity to his intimate devotees as being directly the Supreme Lord. One such case was to one devotee, Ramananda Rai. But generally speaking, he would, if people said to him, you are Krishna, you are the Lord, he would cover his ears. So he plays the role of a devotee, not directly the Supreme Lord. So he's called the hidden incarnation. And he's also called Mahabharanyaya, which means the most merciful of all incarnations. Although he's Krishna himself, when Krishna came, he said, first surrender, then you get love, rain. But Mahaprabhu Gauranga doesn't say like that. He's freely distributing this ecstatic love of God, which is ordinarily very difficult to obtain. Very difficult thing to obtain. People sit in meditation for thousands of years. Just like in the Satya Yuga, the golden age, they would sit for meditation, like Krishna is describing here in this chapter. Silent meditation on the Lord in the heart. You go to one secluded place, you sit down on a grass mat, you control the senses and focus on the heart. And people would sit in meditation, they would live 60,000, 100,000 years in order to achieve love of Krishna. But in this age, it's not possible. People are so spiritually bankrupt. They don't have any inclination for spiritual life. They don't even know who Krishna is. So that method is useless in this age. Even today, people, they say they're doing yoga and doing meditation, but actually they're just superficial. They're not dealing with the real core of yoga, which is to awaken consciousness, love for Krishna. But the yogic method, dhyana yoga, sitting in meditation, is not recommended in this age. But what is recommended is the process introduced by Lord Chaitanya, Lord Gauranga, which is to chant the holy names. That is the only way in this age that we can awaken. So on the one hand, we're very unfortunate, we're born in Kali Yuga, but on the other hand, because Gauranga has appeared and giving this yagya, this sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name, he's giving this process freely. We are very fortunate, and so Mahaprabhu Gauranga doesn't accept offense. Doesn't accept offense. I was just reading the other day about when he appeared in India, there were many Mayavadi sannyasis, Mayavadis. A Mayavadi is someone who does not accept the personal existence of God. They do not accept, and they also think that I am God. So they are great offenders at the lotus feet of the Lord. But Gauranga is so merciful, he actually went to this place, especially where mostly these sannyasis, Mayavadi sannyasis were staying, Kashi. And he went there chanting and dancing with his devotees in the street. And the head of this group was called Prakashananda Saraswati. And when he heard that this Gauranga was coming in the street chanting Hare Krishna, he began to criticize him. He's saying, you're not a sannyasi, you're not a devotee, you're simply juggling words. Yeah? And when Gauranga's devotees heard this, they became very upset that this Prakashananda, this Mayavadi sannyasi, is criticizing Gauranga. They went to Gauranga, they say, look what he's doing. But Gauranga just tolerated. He didn't. He could have said, who is this man? I am the Supreme Lord. I will destroy him. No. He smiled. And instead what he did, there was a divine arrangement that he made to go to this group of offenders, because they are so offensive. They've got no hope of being saved. No hope. They're so offensive. But Gauranga himself went there, and he showed also his humility. There was a congregation of all these sannyasis together, and instead of sitting among the group, sitting on the main platform, he went to sit where the people leave the shoes at the entrance. Such is the humility of the Lord. Again, showing humility and tolerance. Yeah. So, even though they are the biggest offenders, they are thinking, I'm God. Still, he did not take offense. In fact, he went to convert them, and he did. He converted them. So this is an example of how Mahaprabhu Gauranga does not accept offense. Therefore, we need to take shelter of him in order to get Krishna consciousness. That means, how do we take shelter? We chant his name, Gauranga, Shri Krishna Chaitanya. That is taking shelter of him, and then we can chant Hare Krishna with purity. So, as I say, we are on the one hand very unfortunate, but on the other hand very fortunate. So, therefore our business is very simple. We chant the holy names. This is the process. We read from the scriptures. I remember when I first joined the Hare Krishna movement in Johannesburg in 79, there was one American devotee there. His name was Shrutadev. And he was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada brought the movement to the West. And one time this Shrutadev, he wrote to his guru, to Srila Prabhupada, and he said, how can I stay in this movement? I don't want to fall down. I don't want to go away. I want to stay here, safe. Huh? So Srila Prabhupada wrote back and said, if you scrutinizingly study my books, scrutinize means you study like a lawyer, huh? Then you will stay safe in this movement. So the chanting is very important, but also the study of the books, these great bhakti books. And in this way we can make progress, and our faith can remain strong. And of course by association with other like-minded people. We know that Tony, Bhakta Tony at the moment is homeless, and he's staying in one shelter with people that are very, very, their consciousness is very low. Right? Yeah. And he's saying it's very difficult, because if you are associating with people who are in that low frequency range, it's very difficult for you to carry on nicely with your bhakti, with your devotion. But if you're with somebody that's on the same wavelength, focus on Krishna. This makes such a difference. And of course, in Kali Yuga, the vast majority of the population, they're, as Prabhupada say, they're animals on two legs.
Yeah.
They're animals, why? Because they just eat, sleep, mate, and defend. So therefore, we should pray that we have the association of spiritually minded people, because this is essential. We absolutely need it. And Krishna will help. He make all arrangements to bring a sincere soul closer to him on the path of bhakti. That's what he wants, and he can make arrangements we cannot imagine. So one of the things that my guru, for instance, said also is that this Bhagavad Gita, this book, Bhagavad Gita, is so important. We should read every day one chapter. Sometimes you can read with somebody, that's very nice, but even not, you keep it steady in your practice. So in this chapter, Krishna was saying that by the meditation process, it's useless. I need to chant the holy names, and we get regulated. We start the day the same way, chant the holy names, read some devotional literature, have kirtan, and in this way we develop our spiritual strength, because that's necessary. It's like people go to gym, once or twice a week, sometimes 4 or 5 times a week. They're very disciplined. But Krishna is saying here also that discipline is necessary on the spiritual path. Not that today I feel like chanting, today I don't, and I'll just sleep. No, it's going to require effort. But this is a very interesting process, because it's explained that bhakti or love of Krishna is already there in the heart. It's not something that is artificial, that you're trying to introduce. No, it's called Bhakti Lata Bij. Bij means a seed, and Bhakti means devotion, and Lata means a creeper that grows. So that seed of devotion, every living being has a loving relationship with Krishna. It's intrinsic. But at the moment, in the material atmosphere, it's covered. We're not like, often, as I said before, I give a flower to someone, who is Krishna? They don't even know. So that consciousness of Krishna is completely covered.
I didn't know till you introduced it to me. I mean, like I said, I didn't know about Krishna. I didn't know about the love of Krishna. I didn't know, and it's true, like you say, in this day and age, no one knows who Krishna is. No one has the fear of God in them. No one has mercy anymore in their hearts. No one cares. And I was amazed. That's why I grasped on so quickly. That's why because I was longing for something in my heart. I was longing for love. I was longing, to feel a part of something. Right? And it's true. Everyone has that seed planted in them of worshipping their divine master. It's already in them. They're born with it in them. We are created with it, because we are the creation of Krishna, and it's in us already. But in this day and age, you need, how can I say, it needs to be ignited.
Correct.
And that day that you spoke to me, I was, and it's true. Krishna can't work, or you can't become Krishna conscious if you're not humble or wanting something so badly. If you're unteachable, or you're still living in pride, you're never going to get to that place until you surrender everything. And I say, being in my situation at that time, it was a blessing. Being homeless and being so low, being so humble, because I was stripped of everything. I had nothing, I had nothing more. There was nothing more for me. That when Andrew spoke to me and told me about Krishna, I just longed for something. I wanted to feel this love. I wanted to feel a part of something. And that's why I grasped on it so quickly, and I became Krishna conscious so quickly, because I had nothing. I just wanted to, you know. And yes, I'm still homeless, and it is difficult, you know. That's why I come and bother Andrew so much, because there's no one else to associate with there. But yeah, life is much better for me, you know. My spiritual eyes have been opened. It's like I can't explain it. That you know, to serve Krishna, my life has purpose.
Yeah,
That's what. I'm not waking up. I'm not just, you know, surviving. You know, surviving life, surviving the day. I've got purpose. You know, every person I approach, give a flyer to, talk to. You know,
yeah,
it's amazing to have purpose and to serve Krishna and to do something for him. You know.
yeah.
And that's what life's about. You got to have purpose, or else you're not living life. And life means nothing if you don't have purpose in life, or you don't know who your master or you're serving in life. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's a fact, because I remember I met a very like qualified gentleman. He was an architect, and driving a nice car, and I gave him one flyer, and I was talking to him, and almost immediately he said like that. He said, I'm trying to find meaning in my life. He's from a material point of view, he's very qualified, he's got a nice job, status and everything, but that emptiness, in the heart.
Yeah.
And so it's a magic thing, because people, so many schemes and dreams, chasing this, chasing that. There's one in the Bhagavad Gita, I think it talks like that material life means that you act out your dreams on the stage of the world. This world is like a stage, and you got your dreams. I want to be a rocket scientist, I want to be a spaceman, this, that. It's all dreams. I'm not this body. And therefore none of those activities will bring you satisfaction. But as soon as you, by the grace of Guru and Krishna, you get the awareness that I'm eternal servant of Krishna. Jivera Surupoi Nitya Krishna Das. That's my identity. And then when you begin to act in that consciousness, i.e., like you're going around, you're homeless, but you're giving out flyers about Krishna, you can feel meaning in your life. You haven't got a bank balance, you haven't got a place to stay, or a nice car, or status, or anything. But the change in your consciousness and the way you're feeling is because you're engaged in this simple activity of sharing Krishna consciousness with a little flyer with people you meet. So this is the proof that Krishna consciousness is not anything material. It's a spiritual activity, and it acts directly on the soul. People, depression, loneliness, fear, all of these, just like Krishna was saying in this chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that this practice of Krishna consciousness is the remedy for all the miseries of material life. All of them. You understand? And that's why we firstly need to increase our faith and become more and more strong and faithful. And at the same time, give it up, to the extent that you can. Everybody has different capacity. But Prabhupada once said that you get a small child, and he goes to another child and he says, do you know who is Krishna? And he says, no. Then he says, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. So he's sharing. Simple thing, yeah? But Prabhupada say like that, Lord Chaitanya say like that. Whoever you meet, it may be you go down to the petrol station, fill up your car, you go to the supermarket, somebody at the till, you have the opportunity to give them Krishna. How powerful is that? You understand? After millions of lifetimes, they don't know anything about Krishna, and you come to buy one loaf of bread, and you take one flyer and you give excuse me, this is the Hare Krishna movement. What is that? Krishna is the name of God, like Christ, Krishna, you can hear it's the same. You know what that means to that person? After millions and millions of lifetimes, for the first time, they know who's their creator. And what do? You just walk around with one flyer. So it's so powerful, and therefore you don't need one big temple, huge institutions.
Yeah.
You can practice the Krishna consciousness in your own simple way and be so close to God and get so much blessings. In the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says like that nobody is more dear to him, nobody, than one who witnesses on his behalf. That person who tries to give is the most dear to Krishna than anybody. And he repeats that, emphasizes that. So this is meaning. This is a meaningful life. You know what I mean? If you say, okay, today I can get up, I can walk, I can talk, I've got some energy Krishna is giving it, and I try whoever I meet to give them Krishna, your life is perfect. You know what I'm saying? So we're blessed. We're blessed, to have this understanding and this faith. It's the greatest good fortune, and that's all by the grace of Gauranga. Otherwise, we'd be sleeping in the darkness of ignorance for many, many, many more lifetimes. And so, to cultivate our own spiritual life, be very attentive to yourself. Firstly, love yourself, and that means love your soul. Know what's good for your soul and give that priority every day. And then at the same time, Krishna will give you more and more opportunity and ability and power and resources to distribute Krishna consciousness. There's nothing more, how can I say, pleasing to him than that.